the notes and whatnot at the end of the day. All right, gang. So again, just to recap, we did 1-1 on Friday. You have a Math Excel assignment to go with that. Hopefully you're already finished. If not, just take that mental note. Today we're going to do 1-2. This is the second of 3 sections that we're going to cover. And then so we'll probably take a quiz, I'm guessing Thursday, over these first 3 sections. Okay, so today's is about order of operations. So we'll do some computational skill stuff, so working it out by hand, and some calculator stuff if you have your calculator. So kind of a couple parts. All right, so we're still not doing anything yet with vocab, so we may come back to that once I can get you guys on the online textbook, but we can't really do anything with those just yet. So just know they're there. Don't worry about them for right now. Our learning targets, looks like we have 2. We want to be able to simplify expressions involving exponents, and then also use the order of operations to evaluate expressions. Okay, so example 1 deals with exponents. So let's work through these first couple together. And we won't write this out every time, but what's another way to say 10 to the 6th power? What's another way to write that? And not what's it equal to, but Abby? Right, so 6/10, right? So it's good to understand, and I would write it at least once. This is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tens, right? And powers of 10 are easy, right? All that does is just add a 0 every time. So without a calculator, anybody know what that would be? 10 to the 6th power? What's a 1 with 6 zeros behind it called? What number? Not 100,000. 1 million. That's right. So that's equal to 1 million. Now, before we move on, let's practice on your calculator. And yours is going to look a little bit different than mine. I have a graphing calculator, but same button here. All right. So let's try to type that in as 10 to the 6th, not as 10 times 10 times. So here's how you do it if you don't know. Go ahead and type your base, so 10. And then you use the caret key. So that looks like an up arrow. It's like at the kind of the top right part. So right there, you can see what turned red for me. Yours looks different. Mine like goes up like an exponent. Yours just does the caret key. That's okay. Okay. So then you type 6 after that. So 10 caret key 6. And then enter. And then you see that 1 with 6 zeros behind it, also known as a million. Okay. Any questions? All right. Looking at the next one, obviously we have a decimal there, so I'm just going to go ahead and type that in just like I see it. So negative, not minus, but negative 0.9, and then caret key 4 gives me negative 0.6561. So that's our answer there. And then see, all right, so let's do one of these fractions together. So on your calculator, what's the fraction bar? What, anybody know what it is on a TI-30? Yeah. Right. I call it the ABC button. That's right. So it has A and then B over C. That's your fraction bar. So you would just type 2 ABC button 3 and then caret key 3. On mine, it looks a little bit different. So I have to do parentheses 2 divided by 3 and then caret key 3. Yours is nice though, because it'll bring up yours will give you the fraction answer, which is a lot cleaner than that. So what is it as a fraction? Anybody have it written out as a fraction? Abby? 8 over 27. That's exactly right. Very good. which is really just, if you think about it, not that you would know these by heart, but 8 is equal to 2 to the third power, right? And 27 is equal to 3 to the third power. So that's essentially what we're doing when we take a fraction to a power. Okay? All right. Now, you try D and E on your own, and then we'll go over them. Okay? So try D and E. I'll give you about 30 seconds or so. Think about how E is a little bit different than B. How does it look visually different? Then, does that make a difference? And I would say if you're looking at B compared to E, your calculator is going to be helpful. All right. So can I get a volunteer for D? Anybody got D in fraction form for me? Yes, sir. 1/16. Very good. And remember, like if you have any trouble with that, you don't know how to type 1 ABC2 caret key 4. It's just 1 to the 4th power over 2 to the 4th power. Okay, 1 to the 4th over 2 to the 4th. Now, was there any difference between E and B? How many of you think yes? How many of you think no? All right. So let's let our calculator help kind of judge this, okay? Usually it lets me make this a little skinnier, but oh well. All right, so let's go ahead and type it in how we see it. So remember, we typed in, last time we typed negative 0.9 to the 4th. I already did this, but just recapping, and we got negative 0.6561. Now, the difference here is we have parentheses, so I'm going to actually type those. Parentheses, negative 0.9, close parentheses, to the 4th. And mine says, I know that's hard to see, but it says positive 0.6561. So it turns out it does make a difference, okay? Those parentheses do make a difference. All right, so that's going to give you 0.6561. Now, do what?
I didn't notice that it wasn't negative. I got like the same answer.
Oh yeah, yeah. You see the digits. Yeah. So that's the difference. Is it positive or is it negative? Now, not that we really need to get too far into the weeds, but why that's true is because here your base is technically 0.9. So this is like negative 1 times 0.9 to the 4th. Here your base is negative 0.9, right? So if you think about, don't think about 0.9, but think about 4 negatives, right? Negative, 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 negative. What do 2 negatives make when we're multiplying? Positive, right? So really you have a positive times a positive, right? So that's why the parentheses make a difference, okay? But your big takeaway should be details matter with the calculators, right? So pay attention to those little details. All right, now moving on to example 2. Okay, so a couple of these we're going to try in multiple ways, okay? We're going to try to do them kind of line by line, and we're going to try them maybe in the calculator too, because that's a good skill as well. All right, so when we're thinking about order of operations, what's the deal we use? Them dots, right? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So let's at least write that down so we remember. So PEMDAS. I even kind of group together multiplication and division and addition and subtraction because those two are kind of grouped together. All right. So looking at A, then let's go ahead and try to follow PEMDAS and just work it out kind of line by line. All right. So we do have parentheses, so we want to go ahead and simplify what's in the parentheses. 6 minus 2 is 4. All right. Next up, we have we have exponents and we have division. Exponents come first, right? So that's what we want to do next. 4 to the third. That's not super obvious, so might want to type it in. What is 4 to the third? What's your question? You could, yep, you could still have the 4 in parentheses. Yeah, that's fine. Yes. It's not 12. 4 times 3 would be 12. So that's all right, though. That's a common mistake. Yes. It's 64, right? So got to be careful on those. So we end up with 64 and then divided by 2. All right. What's 64 divided by 2 or half of 64? Just blurt it out if you know it. 32. All right, now let's do some calculator practice. All right, I'm going to go pretty quick on this. So let's try to type it in all in one line, just how you see it. All right, so I'm going to do parentheses, 6 minus 2, close parentheses, caret key 3, and then divided by 2. So you get 32, right? So you can see if you punch it in correctly, your calculator will actually do order of operations for you. All right. But again, it's good to know how to do it both ways. All right. Good to practice that, right? Because you get to one like B and maybe it's a little bit tougher to type in. Okay. But we're going to practice. All right. So let's work it without without our calculator first. So one thing you need to understand is this. When you have multiple things going on in the numerator or in the denominator or both, you treat that like, let me make this a little bit bigger. You treat it like this is in parentheses and that's in parentheses. So I would actually write that on your notes, okay? There's an understood set of parentheses there, okay? Or in this case, 2 sets of parentheses. All right, so we're going to try to, in other words, we're going to try to simplify the numerator to one term and then simplify the denominator to one term before we divide, okay? So looking at my numerator, what I'm going to do first is 2 to the 4th before I subtract. So that's going to give me, what is 2 to the 4th? 16. And we can go ahead and do 15 divided by 3, save us a little writing. So what's that? 5. All right. So now I'm going to kind of carry that over here. 16 minus 1 has got to come before we divide, right? Because we're still kind of in parentheses here, imaginary parentheses. So that's going to be 15, right? And now that we got here, now we can finally go ahead and divide, right? 15 over 5 is equal to what? 3. All right, now let's see if you can type that in correctly to get 3, right? If you have your calculator. So this is going to be a little bit tougher, a little bit more technical. You're going to have to use some parentheses here, okay? So here's how I want you to try to type this in. Go ahead and open parentheses, and then type 2 to the 4th minus 1. So 2 caret key 4 minus 1. Then close your parentheses, all right? 2 to the 4th minus 1 in parentheses. Now, you can do divided by or the fraction bar. I'm going to hit divided by. I don't have a fraction bar. Either one should work, okay? Now, the same thing on the bottom. 15 divided by 3 in parentheses. So 15 divided by 3, close parentheses. All right, now I'm going to hit equals, and hopefully I see 3, and I do, right? Yes. Okay, so it doesn't sound like you can use the fraction bar there. Gotta do divided by instead. So these are good things to figure out. This is why you bring that calculator, so you know how to use it well come test or quiz day. Yes? If you sign out, yeah. All right, so moving on. Actually, let's do E together. Let's go ahead and do E together. Let's just practice that just to save a little bit of time. Let's see if we can just type that into our calculator, okay? So here's how you would do this when we have brackets and parentheses, all right? There are no brackets on your calculator. All you have to do is treat this like an open parenthesis and that like an open parenthesis. These are both closed parentheses. So let's go ahead and try to type it in that way, okay? All right, so we have 3 minus 5, then open parentheses. 3 minus 5, open parentheses. 9 minus 3, you got to open another parentheses here. And then 7 minus 3. Really, you don't even have to close your parentheses, but I will. I'm going to close both parentheses and then hit equals. And then you get 18, okay? 18 is correct. If you work it out line by line, you should end up with 18. But again, just to save a little bit of time for the video, we're going to go ahead and just leave it there, okay? All right, so I want you and, you can compare with your neighbor. You can use your calculator, but take the next couple minutes and try to work out C and D. I'm going to actually put that down to just 2 minutes. Also, try to do, if you have enough time, try to work it out in multiple ways, right? Maybe you start with your calculator, but then if you have extra time, work it out line by line. Because it's very, very possible and probable to key something in wrong. When you have this many things to type in, that's why you want to know how to do it both ways. Okay, so you guys keep working. You still have time, but just to save time on the back end, I went ahead and worked out both line by line. Sometimes I'll call on you after that time. Here, I just put it up on the board like an answer key. So do look that over, though, as you finish. And let me know if you have any questions, okay? Also, another thing to kind of keep in mind is I post these filled out notes at the end of the day. So if the pace is a little too quick for you, you can always find those posted at the end of the day. You can fill out anything maybe you missed, okay? Anybody have any questions about 27 or 2 before we move on? Those are a little bit tougher, right? Whether you're punching them into the calculator or doing them line by line. They can both be pretty tough. All right, we're going to move on if there aren't any questions. Okay. All right, so you'll also have some examples like this that have some variables in them, right? So what we want to do here is substitute and then evaluate, all right? So I would remind yourself or write this down. I want everybody to do this. Use parentheses. So I'm just going to make a set of parentheses. Use parentheses when subbing. You make a substitution in for a variable, I want to see those in parentheses, okay? On that note, let's go ahead and do a couple of these, okay? So A, we have x squared plus x minus 12 divided by y squared, okay? So I'm going to sub in for x, another x, and then a y. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make my substitution. X is equal to 5. It tells me that off to the side, so I'm going to have 5 there and 5 there. And then y is equal to 2. So 2 at the end. All right, beyond that, it's now, once you've done this, it's just an example 1 problem, right? So we're either working it line by line or typing it in correctly. I'm going to work it line by line. You either work it with me or type it in and see if our answers agree. Your choice, okay? Okay, so my answer is up there, 27. Whether you use your calculator or not, that's what you should get, okay? You know if you're not getting 27, if you're typing it in, you're typing it in wrong. You're making a mistake somewhere. So keep playing with that and get it figured out. Anybody have any questions? All right. Let's go ahead and let's skip down to, let's do one more that's a little bit tougher, and then let's do one word problem and we'll call it a day. We're not going to have time to finish everything. So let's skip B there, and let's go down to these guys. Let's do example D. Okay, we'll finish with example D. Okay, and we'll try that one with a calculator. All right, so we're going to sub in here. W is 4 and X is 5. Okay, so that's going to give me -3. Open parentheses. Open another parentheses, and then let's see. 4 minus 6 squared plus, and then X is 5. Now, I just kind of contradicted myself there, right? I said anytime you sub in a 4 or a 5 or whatever, you should put it in parentheses. But, like with all these parentheses, that'd be a lot of parentheses, right? So if you don't have to, then I skipped it there, okay? Now, let's try to type that in. Let's see if we can type that in correctly, okay? We have multiple exponents, multiple parentheses. If you can type this in, you're using your calculator pretty well, okay? So I'm going to go -3. Make sure you do negative and not -3, okay? Open 2 parentheses, so open, open. Then 4 minus 6, close parentheses. Take that to the second power. You can either use the X squared button or caret key 2, either way. So I'm going to do caret 2 plus 5, close parentheses, and then square that. When it's all said and done, if you typed it in correctly, you should get -243. -243. All right. But again, here's the thing. If this is on a test or a quiz, you know, you probably don't want to just take your own word for it that all this equals -243. That's why it's good to be able to work it line by line too. You can do it multiple ways. Check your answers. Okay. All right, and I'm sorry we're kind of rushing here at the end, but let's go ahead and do one of the 2 word problems, and we will call it a day there. Okay. All right. Let's see. Trying to put all that on my screen. 4A says, what is an expression for spending money you have left after depositing 2/5 of your wages in savings? Evaluate the expression for weekly wages of $40, $50, and $300 and $550. Okay. So this would just be 2/5 of your wages, so that would just be 2/5 times whatever your wages are, okay? So that's just going to be 2/5 times W. Two-fifths W. That's our expression, and then we are going to use that to evaluate where W is 40, W is 50, W is 300, and W is 550. So if W is 40, then we have 2/5 of 40. If W is 50, then we have 2/5 of 50. And we're going to do the same thing for, I'm getting a little sloppy here, but 2/5 of 300 and 2/5 of 550. Bless you. All right, so go ahead and try to type those in real quick. Can you tell me what 2/5 times 40 is? Can you tell me what 2/5 times 50 is? Check them as you finish. They'll be going up on the board, so check them as you finish. All right, so that's going to be all right, so answers are up there, 16, 20, 120, and 220. I got to get my timing down because usually I like to leave you guys a few minutes to work. So my apologies for working right up to the end. I will go ahead and post your assignment. So at this point, you'll have an assignment for 1-1 and 1-2. And I wouldn't even bother starting it at this point because I didn't leave you guys any